What if the person you trusted most never truly existed? Eleanor was a young woman searching for connection when she met a mysterious stranger online. His words were strange, his presence unsettling, yet irresistible. But as their bond deepened, she began to see him not only in her dreams, but in the reflections around her. Who was Adrian Vale? And how could someone she never met know her deepest fears? Stay with me, because this story will take you where reality and illusion blur into one terrifying truth. The evening sky hung heavy with shades of burnt orange and soft violet. A gentle breeze brushed through the tall trees that lined the narrow road outside Eleanor Hartley's apartment. Eleanor was 22, a university student of English literature. She had soft auburn hair, tied loosely behind her neck, and wore a simple white shirt tucked into faded blue jeans. Her pale skin glowed faintly under the fading light, and her dark brown eyes often carried an unspoken weight of loneliness. Her small flat was modest, filled with stacks of books on the wooden shelves, a warm brown sofa, and the faint scent of lavender candles. That evening, she sat at her desk by the window, staring at her laptop screen. She had joined an online book discussion group only a few weeks before, a quiet corner of the internet where people talked about old novels, poetry, and philosophies that others found dull. As she scrolled through the forum, a new private message appeared. Her heart gave a small, unexpected jump. The message came from someone named Adrian Vale. His profile picture was nothing more than a shadowed silhouette against a misty background. No clear features, no visible identity. Still, his words were striking. You seem to notice the things others overlook. That is rare. Eleanor read the line twice, her breath slowing. She typed back cautiously. Thank you. Who are you? The reply came almost instantly. Someone who sees the world as you do. Someone who understands silence. Her fingers froze above the keyboard. The tone was neither casual nor ordinary. It felt deliberate, intense. The room suddenly seemed quieter than before. The faint ticking of the old clock on the wall grew sharper in her ears. She leaned back in her chair, staring at the words, her mind circling questions. Who was Adrian Vale? Why did his words feel as though they were meant only for her? A strange sensation crept across her skin, a tingling unease mixed with curiosity. Outside, the wind picked up. Leaves rustled against the window. Shadows lengthened along the walls. She typed again, almost without realizing. You speak strangely. Do I know you? Moments passed. Her pulse quickened. Then the reply appeared. Not yet, but you will. Eleanor's chest tightened. The room felt smaller, as though the walls had drawn closer. She turned to the window, her reflection staring back at her, faintly distorted by the glass. And for just a moment, only a breath, she thought she saw a shadow move behind her reflection. When she spun around, the room was empty. The lavender candle flickered. Her laptop screen glowed. The name Adrian Vale sat there, waiting, and Eleanor felt a deep shiver crawl down her spine. The following day began in silence. Eleanor awoke to the faint hum of distant traffic outside her window. Sunlight pushed its way through the curtains, casting long stripes of gold across her bed. The air smelled faintly of dust and old paper from the pile of books stacked on the floor. She sat up, rubbing her eyes. Her phone buzzed gently on the wooden nightstand. It was a new message. From Adrian Vale. Her stomach tightened as she unlocked the screen. Did you dream last night? Eleanor stared at the words. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Her fingers shook slightly as she typed a reply. Why would you ask me that? The answer came instantly. Because I was there. Her breath caught. A strange pressure filled her chest, heavy and uncomfortable. She tried to recall her dreams. There had been something. A blurred image of standing in a vast hallway, lined with mirrors that showed reflections of herself, reflections that moved out of rhythm, as if they were alive on their own. Had she really dreamt that? Or was she only imagining it now? Eleanor left the phone on the bed and walked into the kitchen. The kettle hissed as it boiled. She poured herself a cup of tea, the steam rising in thin white threads. Yet the warmth did little to calm the unease crawling through her. She turned her phone face down on the table. But curiosity clawed at her. She picked it up again. Another message had already arrived. I know what you saw. The hallway of mirrors. One of them was empty. The porcelain cup slipped from her hand, crashing against the tile floor. Tea splashed across her bare feet, warm and stinging. Her body trembled as she crouched to pick up the pieces. Her reflection stared back at her from a jagged shot of broken ceramic. Her throat felt dry. She typed furiously. "How do you know that? Who are you really?" The reply came slow this time. "I told you. I am someone who understands silence, and I am closer than you think." Eleanor's heart raced. She ran to her bedroom window and pulled the curtain aside. Outside, the street looked empty. A few children played with a ball further down. An elderly woman watered plants on her balcony. Normal. Too normal. And yet, as Eleanor pressed her hand to the cold glass, she felt a presence, as though unseen eyes watched from somewhere she could not locate. Her phone buzzed once more. This time, it was not a message. It was a voice note. Her thumb hovered above the play button, sweat dampening her skin. Slowly, she pressed it. The voice that emerged was low, smooth, and unsettlingly calm. "Eleanor, do not be afraid. You are not alone anymore." Her knees weakened. The phone almost slipped from her grip. Her name. He had spoken her name, but she had never told him. Eleanor's chest felt tight, her breath shallow as she replayed the voice note again and again. The voice was smooth, deliberate, with a strange gentleness that unsettled her more than it calmed her. How did he know her name? Her eyes swept across the room. The shelves, the desk, the candle, the curtain swaying slightly with the evening draft. Everything looked normal, yet nothing felt normal anymore. She deleted the voice note instantly, her finger pressing harder than necessary against the screen. Her phone vibrated again almost immediately. "Do not delete me." Her heart leapt into her throat. Her fingers hovered over the power button. Should she turn the phone off? Before she could decide, another message appeared. "Look at your email." A cold wave spread through her body. She sat back at her desk, laptop screen glowing faintly in the dim light. With trembling hands, she opened her inbox. At the top sat a single unread message. From Adrian Vale. No subject line. Her finger tapped it open. Inside was one attachment. A photograph. Her pulse hammered as she clicked it. The image unfolded slowly, pixel by pixel. It showed Eleanor herself, standing at her own window. The very same window she had been staring out of the night before. Her auburn hair falling over her shoulder, her pale face ghost-like in the reflection of the glass. And behind her, just faintly, was a blurred outline. A figure, tall, motionless, in the corner of her flat. Eleanor pushed back from her chair with a sharp gasp, crashing into the bookshelf. Several novels tumbled to the floor, scattering around her feet. She spun around. The corner of the room was empty. The candle flickered wildly, as if disturbed by a breath of air. Her phone buzzed again. "You looked beautiful last night." Her stomach twisted. The world around her seemed to shrink. The ceiling loomed lower. The shadows crawled higher along the walls. Her trembling hands clutched the phone, her voice breaking as she whispered into the empty room. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" Another reply came, as sharp and sudden as a blade. "I want you to see me." And at that very moment, the candle extinguished itself, leaving her in complete darkness. Darkness clung to the room like a second skin. Eleanor's breath came shallow and uneven, her body pressed against the wall, eyes straining in the black. Her trembling fingers fumbled for the lighter. A spark flared, then the candle wick caught flame once more. The faint glow returned, spilling across the shelves and floor, chasing away the suffocating dark. But the corner of the room remained heavy, as though something still lingered there, watching. Eleanor snatched her phone and shoved it into her pocket. She needed air. She needed to escape the four walls that felt like a cage. Throwing on a coat, she rushed outside into the cool night. The air carried the faint scent of rain and wet concrete. Street lamps glowed in a scattered row, their orange light painting shadows on the pavement. She walked quickly, her boots striking against the ground in sharp echoes. Her mind screamed with questions, but above all, one thought kept clawing its way back. She could not face this alone. Eleanor stopped outside a small cafe, still lit despite the late hour. Through the glass, she spotted a familiar face. It was Daniel Carter, a fellow student from her literature class. 24, tall with a lean frame, messy brown hair, and a habit of carrying too many notebooks in his satchel. He always dressed plainly, gray jumper, dark jeans, glasses that slipped down his nose, but his sharp eyes missed very little. Tonight, he sat by the window, scribbling notes, a cup of untouched coffee beside him. Eleanor pushed open the door. The bell above it chimed. Daniel glanced up, surprised. "Eleanor? At this hour?" His voice was calm, but carried concern. She slid into the chair opposite him, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles turned white. "I need to tell someone," she whispered, her eyes darting towards the dark windows as if they might hold ears. Daniel leaned forward. "Tell me what?" She took a long breath. Then the words poured out, about Adrian Vale, the messages, the voice note, the photograph, every detail, every flicker of fear that had clung to her for days. Daniel listened, his brows furrowed, his pencil tapping against the paper without writing a word. When she finished, silence fell. The cafe's humming refrigerator and faint jazz music filled the space between them. Finally, Daniel spoke. "You realize this could be someone from the forum, playing a trick." Eleanor shook her head fiercely. "No, it is not a trick. The photograph, Daniel, it was me, at my own window. How could they be there?" Her voice cracked. Her eyes glistened. Daniel reached across the table, resting a steady hand over Hayes. "Listen, if someone is watching you, we can find out who. We can track it. I will help you." For the first time, Eleanor felt a flicker of relief, until her phone buzzed again. Her blood ran cold as she slowly pulled it from her pocket. A new message. From Adrian Vale. "You should not have told him." The color drained from her face. Daniel's eyes widened as he saw the screen. And then, almost instantly, another message appeared. "Now he will see me too." Daniel stared at Eleanor's phone, his jaw tightening. The cafe suddenly felt colder, the warm lights above them dimming against the weight of the message. Eleanor's hands shook as she clutched the device, her pulse thundering in her ears. Daniel forced a steady tone. "It is just a message. Words on a screen. Do not let it control you." But his voice betrayed a flicker of unease. Eleanor whispered, "He knows. He always knows." Daniel pulled out his own laptop from the satchel, his fingers moving quickly over the keys. If this person is real, he leaves a trail. Everyone does. Email headers, IP addresses. We will track him. The glow of the screen reflected against his glasses, his sharp eyes darting across lines of data. Eleanor sat frozen, watching the candle flame of hope flicker faintly in her chest. Then her phone vibrated again. This time, it was not a text. It was an image. Her breath caught as she opened it. The photograph showed Daniel, sitting exactly where he was now, leaning over his laptop, the cup of coffee beside him, the glow of the cafe lights on his hair. Only the angle of the picture was impossible. It was taken from outside the cafe window. Eleanor's head jerked toward the glass. Her wide eyes scanned the street. Empty. Silent. Only a dim lamppost, a wet pavement, and a distant car rolling past. Her skin prickled as though invisible eyes were pressed against her skin. She shoved the phone toward Daniel, her voice breaking. "Do you see? Do you believe me now?" Daniel froze, the color draining from his face as he studied the image. His words faltered. For once, the man who always had explanations had none. The cafe lights flickered. Once. Twice. The jazz music cut off abruptly. The hum of the refrigerator stilled. Silence fell, thick and unnatural. Daniel rose to his feet, his chair scraping sharply across the tiles. "We are leaving. Now." They rushed out of the cafe, the bell above the door clanging in protest. The night air was damp and heavy, carrying the faint smell of rain-soaked earth. Daniel kept a firm grip on Eleanor's arm as they walked fast down the pavement. But the silence behind them was wrong. Eleanor dared to glance back. The cafe they had just left was dark now, as if every light inside had been snuffed out in unison. Her phone buzzed once more. The message appeared, cold and deliberate. "Running will not help. He already sees me." Daniel's hand tightened on Hayes, his face pale beneath the streetlights. For the first time, Eleanor saw fear in his eyes. The street stretched ahead in silence. Eleanor's boot splashed against shallow puddles. Her hand clutched tight in Daniel's. The air was heavy, damp, and carried the faint metallic tang of rain-soaked iron. Every street lamp buzzed faintly, their orange glow flickering in strange rhythm, as if reacting to their footsteps. Daniel's jaw was clenched, his pace urgent. "We will get to my flat. It is safer there. I have better equipment. If this is someone playing a game, I will find him." But his voice lacked conviction. Each word trembled beneath the weight of fear. Eleanor swallowed hard, her throat dry. "He is not just someone, Daniel. I feel him. Everywhere." They reached a narrow alley that cut between two rows of terrace houses, the quickest way to Daniel's place. The shadows here were thicker, pooling in corners where the streetlights did not reach. Their footsteps echoed unnaturally, as though another pair of feet followed half a beat behind. Eleanor's chest tightened. She gripped Daniel's arm. "Do you hear that?" He stopped, listened. Silence. Then a faint scrape, like shoes dragging across wet stone. Daniel spun around. Nothing but darkness and a reflection of their own shapes in a rain-smeared window of a boarded-up shop. But Eleanor's breath caught, her eyes fixed on the glass. Her reflection stood there, pale and trembling. Daniel's, beside hers, and just behind them, blurred, elongated, was a third figure, tall, still, its head tilted unnaturally to one side. Eleanor's hand flew to her mouth. Her voice cracked into a whisper. "Daniel, he is here." Daniel followed her gaze, his own reflection shifting in the glass. His eyes widened. The figure in the reflection did not move. Yet when Eleanor looked behind her, the alley was empty. Her heartbeat thundered. It was ringing with the force of it. Daniel pulled her sharply. "Do not look. Keep walking." They moved quickly, almost running now. But the reflections in every passing window told the same story. Eleanor, Daniel, and the figure, always standing just behind them. Her phone buzzed again. She raised it with trembling hands. A message glowed across the screen. "Do not fear the reflection. Fear the moment I step through it." Eleanor stumbled, her knees buckling. Daniel caught her, holding her up as a vision swam. And then, faintly, from the darkened glass beside them, a sound emerged. A breath, drawn slow and deliberate. Not hers, not Daniel's, but his. Daniel dragged Eleanor out of the alley and into the open street. Her legs shook with every step, but his grip held her steady. The houses around them loomed in silence, their windows dark, their doors shut tight as though the entire neighborhood had fallen asleep at once. Only the sound of their breaths, uneven and urgent, filled the night. They reached Daniel's flat, a narrow brick building at the corner of the street. He fumbled with the keys, his hands trembling more than he wanted Eleanor to notice. Finally, the lock clicked. They stumbled inside. Daniel slammed the door shut and bolted it, his chest heaving. The flat smelled of coffee, dust, and faint engine oil. His father's old tools still kept in a box by the radiator. Books and notebooks were scattered across the table, his laptop still open from earlier work. Daniel pressed his back against the door, his breathing harsh. "We are safe here. No one can get in." Eleanor wrapped her arms around herself, shivering though the room was warm. "He does not need a door." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Eleanor, listen to me. What you saw in the glass, it was an illusion. Our minds were already primed by his messages. He is clever, a manipulator. That is all." But even as he spoke, his voice faltered. Eleanor moved closer to the mirror that hung on the wall above his desk. Her reflection looked pale, frightened, eyes wide like a hunted animal. Daniel followed her gaze. For a moment, the reflection looked normal. Then the glass rippled, faintly, as though disturbed by water. Eleanor gasped and stepped back. Daniel froze, his logic collapsing against the impossible sight before him. The reflection did not copy them anymore. Eleanor's mirrored self still trembled, but now she stood alone. No Daniel, no room, just Eleanor, and behind her, Adrian Vale. His form was clearer now, a man of tall build, his face half-veiled in shadow, eyes dark and unblinking. He wore a long coat, black as ink, the fabric seeming to shift like smoke. Slowly, he raised his hand and pressed it against the inside of the glass. The mirror shuddered, a low hum vibrating through the room. Eleanor screamed, stumbling back into Daniel's arms. Daniel's face drained of color, his rational mind finally breaking. That is not possible. That cannot be possible. The hum grew louder. The glass quivered, tiny fractures crawling outward like veins. Adrian's hand pressed harder from within. A voice seeped into the air, low and resonant, as though spoken both inside and outside their heads. You invited me when you answered. Now the door is open. The fractures spread across the mirror, glowing faintly with pale light. Daniel grabbed Eleanor, pulling her away from the desk as shards began to tremble, threatening to fall. The air grew cold. Their breaths misted in the dim light. And then, with a sound like cracking bone, the mirror split wide. A hand began to emerge. The mirror split with a scream of shattering glass. Shards scattered across the wooden floor, glinting like ice in the dim light. From the broken frame, Adrian's hand pushed through, pale, long-fingered, veins dark beneath the skin. Eleanor shrieked, stumbling backwards until her spine struck the wall. Daniel stood in front of her, arms spread as though he could shield her from the impossible. His body trembled, but his eyes locked on the figure forcing its way through. Adrian Vale's head appeared next. His face was both sharp and blurred, as though unfinished, like a drawing never completed. His eyes, however, were clear, cold, bottomless. They fixed on Eleanor with a dreadful stillness. Daniel shouted, voice shaking, "Stay away from her." Adrian's mouth curled faintly at the edge. I was never near her until she called me. Eleanor pressed her hands to her ears, but the voice seeped inside her skull, heavy and echoing. Her memories clawed back. The first message, the whole way of mirrors in a dream, the shadow in every reflection. She had answered. She had welcomed the conversation. And now the door between them was open. Adrian stepped further through the mirror, though his body did not seem bound by flesh. His form shimmered, half smoke, half bone. Daniel grabbed a heavy toolbox from beside the radiator and hurled it at him. The box passed straight through, clattering uselessly against the wall. Adrian's form rippled but did not falter. His voice deepened, vibrating through the very air. I'm not a man. I am the silence between your thoughts. I am the shape in the glass when no one is there. You gave me a name, Adrian Vale, and with that, you gave me life. Eleanor's knees buckled. She collapsed to the floor, tears streaking her pale face. She whispered, "You are nothing. You are not real." Adrian tilted his head. Yet you believed. You fed me with your fear, your loneliness, your need for someone to see you. You made me real. Daniel pulled Eleanor to her feet, dragging her toward the door. But when he yanked the handle, it did not move. The bolt was no longer metal but shadow, solid and black, locking them inside. Eleanor screamed, slamming her fist against the wood. Behind them, Adrian's body was almost fully through the broken frame. The room grew darker, colder, as though all warmth had been stolen. Daniel spun, desperation in his eyes. Fight him, Eleanor. He exists because you believe. Stop believing. Adrian's face twisted, not with anger but with hunger. She cannot. She loves me. Eleanor's heart froze. The words struck deeper than any blade. Had she loved him? Had she longed for him in the silence of her lonely nights? Her breath came in sobs as she stared at the creature, the man-shaped shadow who now stood fully in her world. Her lips trembled. No, I do not love you. You are nothing. You never were. For the first time, Adrian faltered. His form flickered, edges unraveling like smoke and wind. The glass shards on the floor began to vibrate, humming with a sharp, metallic cry. Eleanor stepped forward, her fear twisting into fury. You are no stranger. You are emptiness. You are the lie I told myself to feel less alone. And I will not believe in you anymore. Her words rang through the air like a blade. Adrian's body cracked, fragments peeling away into darkness. His face collapsed inward, a hollow void where eyes once glowed. If you stop believing, I cease. The voice thinned, scattered, and then gone. The mirror frame fell silent, empty, nothing more than wood and shattered glass. The room brightened slowly, the weight lifting, the cold fading. Daniel pulled Eleanor close, her body trembling against his chest. "It is over," he whispered. But Eleanor's eyes drifted toward the shards on the floor. Among them, just faintly, one fragment still reflected Adrian's eyes. And they blinked. Loneliness can make us see what is not really there, and sometimes the comfort we chase may become the danger we cannot escape. Be careful who you trust, even in silence, even online, because not every stranger is who they seem. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more spine-tingling stories, and never miss the next mystery waiting in the dark.